Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Toni Robinson is the founder of The Cookie People. She has a huge network of followers online, but she's relatively new to in-person networking. However, it's definitely something she intends to do more of. Thank you very much for joining me on my podcast, Toni.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Now, you're the founder of The Cookie People. Can you just briefly describe your business for our listeners?
So we're a business that basically solely focuses on cookie-based products, and we sell it in store, we sell at events, we also sell online where we post all over the UK.
And when did you start, and what was it that made you start your business?
Whenever I get asked when did I start, I always have to go back to when you're trying to work back your date of birth and you're like, where was it? I'm like, which I can't remember. So I think it was very end of 2016 is when we officially started, and but it was quite, the first year I would say was relatively slow, and then after that it was super hyperdrive fast. So the way it started was I had my first child and he had a dairy allergy.
Right.
And he's 9 now, so you really couldn't get many dairy-free things back then. It was a lot more difficult. So I had this thing where I was like, I am making him his first birthday cake. He is not having no birthday cake. That's really sad.
Yeah.
I was 24 and I'd never baked. So I was like, okay, so I basically started baking, testing all the recipes with for the dairy-free side of things, and I found it really therapeutic, and I actually really enjoyed the process, which then made me want to try to bake other things. And a friend of mine asked me if I could she had a women's institute, and she asked me if I could go to this women's institute event and basically sell some things because somebody had dropped out last minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh God, I don't know what to sell. This is mad. So I said, I'll do sugar cookies. You know, the ones that are decorated?
Yes.
But what with having a small child, I did not have the time to do this. So I just decided what's really quick and easy, cookies. So I made loads of cookies. But the problem is my personality is I can't do anything by half. I always have to go a little bit too full on. It's just, I do it with everything in my life. So I created a logo called The Cookie People, and ordered some stickers, and I turned up at this tiny little village hall WI event, and I sold all my cookies, and I went home to my husband and I just said, do you know what? There's something in this. And that was at the end of 2016. 2017, we got the council to come around to do like a hygiene check on the house. And then we started doing events in 2017, just like farmers markets and things like that. So that's how it started.
Well, if you managed to sell out to the WI, I think that was a pretty good accolade to start with.
It was the most bizarre thing, because I think it was like 2 days before. I didn't know what. I was just doing a favour for a friend, because at the time I was already self-employed. You see, at the time doing a sports massage therapist. So I was already doing that. So it was a bit of a thrown in the deep end, really. Because she'd seen me baking for my son for his dairy allergy, she just was like, "Please help me," and I was like, "Okay." And then so that's basically what started it all off, and then from that point we did events, and then we did a website so you could order online, because we were having loads of people saying, oh my God, can you please send this to me? And we were like, ooh. So we went live with our website in 2000 and I want to say it was 2017 we went live with the website. And that's when social media just blew up. So from the website going live, I think we had like 600 Instagram followers, and it was just flying. It wasn't within I think 8 months we were up to 20,000.
Wow.
And I think now we're at 61,000. So I think that was kind of being able to post our product became the catalyst, I think.
Yeah. So describe to me what your cookies are like.
So they're not, I would class them as a little bit more American cookies than, because I think people can sometimes get confused that a biscuit and a cookie are the same thing. They just have different names, but they're not the same thing. The way that I kind of make them different in my mind is, if a cookie goes stale, it goes soft. If a cookie goes stale, it goes hard. And that's the kind of the science behind the product. So if you have like a digestive biscuit and it's stale, it ends up going all soft, doesn't it? Whereas if you have a cookie, it should be really soft. When it starts getting quite hard, that's when you know, okay, that's past its best. But our cookies are, I just think that they're like extra. They're like cookies, but like with a little bit of sass. So they've got, we just make the most crazy flavours. We do stuffed cookies. We sell edible cookie dough. So if you ever come into like our store, you'll see there's like a counter filled with what looks like different ice creams, but it's actually edible cookie dough. So that's a bit of an unusual one. So you buy that by the scoop, but it's safe for you to eat. We do cookie pizzas, so it looks like a pizza, but it's got Nutella and chocolate all over it. So yes, it's just cookies, but just taken to a very different level.
Yeah. And so how did you perfect your recipes? How long did it take?
To be fair, the first recipe I started with is different to the recipe I have now. So I think the first year and a half was kind of my basic cookie recipe. And then every night I would change, because I'm quite into this. I love the science of things. I've discovered I've got a very unusual brain. We're trying to figure out what it is about my brain, but somebody's said to me before, I think you might need to get tested because you might have a little bit of like ADHD or something, which does make sense now. I'm like, you might be right, because everything I do, I have to do it perfect for me, not for anyone else, but for me. So when I was doing the cookie recipe, I needed to learn the science of it. I needed to know, well, what is the science of the butter and the flour and how the ratios and the temperatures, and so I just had to basically know everything about cookies. Otherwise, how could I call myself a cookie expert if I didn't know everything?
Yeah.
So I would just change a few things out. If the cookie came out maybe a bit too flat, I would be like, right, that's a temperature or a butter issue. And I would literally keep tweaking the recipe until I was like, this is it. And that's been the recipe I've had now for, I would say, for the last, probably 3-4 years. That's the recipe. It's never changed.
Yeah. And so who was eating all the results of your experiments?
Andy, my husband, honestly, I think he definitely put on a bit of weight in the early years. I just kept going, try this one. But he's not as pernickety as me, so he'd just be like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, but can you taste the buttery difference? And there's a slight tartness to this one, isn't there? And he'd be like, yeah.
So tell me about some of the flavours that you have on offer now.
Oh, so we actually quite like to name our cookies. They have little names. I give them personalities. So every month we change our menu, so that, because we have so many different flavours, for people to be able to try them all. So for example, we have which is one of my favourite ones. It's called Cinnabon Hun. And it is a cinnamon spiced cookie with a maple glaze. So if you imagine like a glazed donut, but it's a glazed cookie. So it's not something I've ever seen anywhere else. So it's like a churro, but as a cookie.
Yeah.
We have one called Kevin Vegan, which is a play on Kevin Keegan, and it's a vegan cookie. We have Biscoff. We have like Biscoff cheesecake, which is it's like a vanilla cookie stuffed with Lotus Biscoff spread. It's got a cheesecake topping. But they are very extravagant cookies. But we have every week we have 8 different flavors. We have 3 different flavors of dough, and the cookie dough we have, like Kinder. We have birthday cake, which is sprinkles. And so it's a very colourful counter, I'll give you that.
And which is your most popular, would you say?
It's called Jammy D, so it's got Jammy Dodgers on top, and no matter what we do, there are other cookies that are very close, but that one everybody loves it. It's very simple jam white chocolate cookie, like a bit like a raspberry and white chocolate style.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we ever take that off the menu for a couple of weeks, people do start emailing us and messaging us like, can we get that cookie back on, please? So I would say that one is definitely our most popular.
Yeah. So how many cookies would you say you make in a week?
Do you know, I went into an infant school to do a talk on this, and they actually asked me, and I gave them, I found it was, I found the number, because it does vary, because we have 2 locations now as well. I would say it's about, give a quick maths in my head. It's probably between 2,500 to 4,000 a week.
Wow.
2,500 to 4,000, depending on the time of year and things.
Yeah.
Then I think at really busy times, if we've got events as well, it could go up to 5,000. That's just the cookies. We obviously have brownies and other things as well. So I would say about 5,000 treats, like 5,000 items a week, I would say.
Yeah. And how many people are in your team now?
Well, we just added, so there's 10 people in the team, and then there's also me and Andy. So altogether, we're a team of 12 now, which blows my mind every time I think about that. I'm like, oh, it worries me.
And you said you've got 2 locations, so where are you based?
So we have our main bakery, and a front of store is in Ashby in Scunthorpe, which is like a mini high street.
Yeah.
And then there's a big park called Central Park, and we call it our hatch, and it's basically a building where you have like a serving hatch and people can buy at the park. So we're there as well.
Oh, I bet that's popular.
Oh, it's gone mad. That's the one which we've only been there for 8 weeks, and it's a very different, because we're very passionate about our coffee as well, you see. So we sell a lot of drinks. And again, because I'm a perfectionist, all of our drinks are to our own recipes as well. So we have to make them in-house. So it's iced and frozen drinks in the park on a hot day. I think we make hundreds. It's good. You should come. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I will. Now I know about it. So are you still growing? Do you think you're going to add to your team?
Yeah, so I think we've always had a rough idea of what it is we wanted to do. And then when the opportunity comes to us, I think we're quite quick to go, is this what we want? So a couple of times we've been offered locations in city centres, and we've been offered places in Meadowhall, in Lincoln, and we get quite far down the process, and then we go, do we want this? And I think it's because we realise we are quite small. We like being part of our business, and the idea of expanding it, I think we would lose a part of our personality a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find that balance of expanding, but then also not expanding past our personality and past what our, like, because we have a lot of ethics and a lot of things that we really stand for. So our next plan at the moment, which is something I've actually only just decided really, is I'm going to try to repurpose old buildings that have been abandoned. Because we're very big into the environment and recycling, and as a business I hate the idea that we're adding to the climate crisis and things. So for us, that's a massive thing. So if we can find an old building that's, like an old toilet block that's like lost its love, and then bring cookies to it, like, yay! So at the moment, that's kind of what we're thinking we're going to do. And rather than expand into cities, we're thinking, why don't we expand into the smaller towns that maybe don't have... Cities have lots of choice. It's the small towns that don't. So we think, why give more choice to the bigger cities when we could maybe... Yeah, so that's kind of where our head is at the moment.
Yeah, oh, interesting. And obviously people in cities can still order online anyway, can't they?
Well, and to be fair, we get a lot of customers travel to us from places, and it's always really funny when you get people from London that come to Scunthorpe and they're like, I cannot believe I've come to get cookies. We've had a couple of known names come and buy cookies from us, and we were mentioned on Gogglebox because somebody from one of the Gogglebox show, what are they called? It's not a character, is it? But one of the people that appear on
Yeah,
Gogglebox,
yeah.
she's one of our customers, so she actually travels from Leeds to us quite regular. So when she had mentioned it on Gogglebox, it went mad. It was like, oh my god, everyone was messaging us. So it's definitely a thing where people do travel to us because of the social media following.
Yeah.
People come to us because of that.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I could talk to you about cookies all day, but we ought to talk about some networking, which is
Yes,
what the
let's do that.
podcast is about. So we actually met at a networking event where you'd supplied some cookies, and I have to say they were absolutely delicious.
Oh, I'm glad.
So is networking something that you've done very much of for your business?
Okay, I'll be on complete. That was the first networking event I've ever done. I've never been to one before. I even spoke at it, and I'm sure that was. I cringed thinking back at what I said. I was like, "Oh, I hope I did okay."
You did, because I thought I must get her on my podcast.
Oh, so that's good. Yeah. It was the first one I've ever done. First, we were contacted to see if we could supply the cookies, and then if we wanted to come along. And then she did say, "Would you mind maybe talking?" So I was like, "Oh." Okay, so I've always had this thing, if I'm scared of it, I've got to do it. I'm not going to not do it just because I'm scared. That's not a good enough reason to not do something. So I just kind of chucked myself in. But yeah, that was the first one I ever went to. And I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, it was actually really good. So in terms of networking at events, that's the first one of those I've done. But I do network, but in my own way.
You do a lot online, don't you?
Yes, I do a lot through social media, which for me is how my business grows. So I guess it's the correct way for me to be doing it, because if that's the growth aspect, I guess that's what will feed the growth, isn't it? So
Yeah. So tell me which platforms you're particularly active on.
So I'd say Instagram's our main platform. That's more of our. It reaches our whole audience. Facebook is more for our local audience.
Yeah.
We are on TikTok, and that's more just because I think for you kind of have to be on TikTok now if you're a business. I think it's almost like forced. It's like you have to do this. And I'm also on LinkedIn, but very recently on LinkedIn. That's my newest add to the list. But Instagram's definitely my main.
Yeah.
The main platform I use.
Yeah. And so what kind of content do you put out there?
So at the moment, I try to always have really good images just to basically entice people in to see the product. But then I try to put out content which is obviously the fun aspects, because I do try to make the days fun, because if you can't have a cookie shop and have a fun job, there's something wrong there. You have to be fun. So I do try to put my team on the spot, and it's always funny. It's not serious. We don't do anything serious. We're kind of messing around, but then also showing a bit of behind the scenes. But obviously we can't show too much, because then you'll be giving away your trade secrets. Yeah. So showing behind the scenes, talking about what's going on in the flavours. But then I do touch upon. I do put content out there for other small businesses, because we do have a lot of our followers are other small businesses.
Yeah.
So I do like to put out content aimed at them as well, to kind of be like, you're not on your own.
Yeah.
It's really hard sometimes. So that's the kind of content I do. It's more product led, but then also behind the scenes.
Yeah. And what would you say gets the most interaction?
Definitely. It's either in terms of the products. It's if it looks filthy, if you're looking at it and you're like, wow, like it's got white chocolate dripping over it. I think one of our videos on TikTok, we got 1.1 million views on it, and it was just a cookie dough dipped in white chocolate. So it's anything that I think if somebody can look through the screen and go, I want to eat that now. They always do really well. And then the ones on the other side, they're not product content. I would say it's actually the ones where I'm talking probably from my heart a little bit, and being quite open and really honest, and saying something that maybe other people are thinking but haven't said it yet. So they're the two things that I think definitely get the most interactions.
Yeah. Well, I think, being genuine is probably what's going to grow your network, and grow your network with people that you resonate with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I am who I am. I don't ever put on you'd have noticed at the networking event, I never put on a different person for different situations. No. I'm just me regardless. So I could be talking to somebody like the Queen of England and I would still talk like this. And I can't be anyone else other than me. And I also don't want to be anyone else other than me, because I think that's probably, I can't be anyone else better, because I can only be myself. So I just think if I want to give somebody the best version of me, then I have to just give them me, because that's all I've got, really. So that's, so I'm always really genuine. So I think that's one of the reasons why, because our social media has grown organically. We've never done anything other than just post. So I think because people follow they don't just follow for the cookies, I think they follow for the story, and it's more of a personal thing as well, definitely.
Yeah. So now that you've been to one networking event that you got asked to speak at, is that something you think you'll do more of?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think if I'm going to be completely honest, I think if I wasn't asked to supply cookies and talk, would I have just gone? Probably not. No, I probably wouldn't have gone, which is wrong, because now I've kind of gone, I would go back again. So yeah, 100%. I think I'm really glad that they asked me to go for those reasons, because if they'd have just asked me to go, I probably wouldn't have gone, because I don't think I would have known what it could bring.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening who, like you, sort of hasn't done in-person networking at all and is maybe thinking, that's not for me, what advice would you give to them?
I would say 100%, because I think for me, I've learned that it isn't just good for, and I think I spoke about this at that networking event, it's not just about networking to grow your business, it's networking to grow you as a person, because in a business you have to be able to wear lots of hats, and sometimes you don't know anything about certain things. So when you go to these events and you meet people, it's meeting like-minded people, and it's that you just feel a little bit less alone. And it's really interesting to see all these people that are like, they're there to grow their business, so they're passionate about their business, which is what I am. So I'm sitting there going, oh wow, your guys are passionate too. And having a really passionate conversation with somebody is so fulfilling. And I got so much from it on a business level, because I mean, I'm now speaking to you, which this would never have happened. I've also been speaking to a couple of like wedding venues that are now wanting us to potentially become suppliers. That would never have happened. So it did work with business, 100%. It helped the business grow, but I feel like I've added to my my little community as well, which is good for my mindset and my mental well-being, because now I can sit there and be like, oh, if I've got a question about a wedding venue and I'm like, I've been asked to do this wedding venue, I might be able to go to one of these new friends and say, is this normal? And they might say, no, that's not normal. So I feel like it's given me but two sides of something I didn't have. So yeah, I would 100%. And it's not scary either. I think everybody's like you, so it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
And I know another way that you might not consider it growing your network, but I think it is. I know you get asked to do talks for schools and so on, don't you? Because my son's just has finished at John Leggett College in Scunthorpe, and I know you've been in there to give talks. So tell me something about the work you do in education.
So I think I've been asked to go to all different ages, and it's definitely not something I would ever have thought I would do, but I will say it's definitely something I want to do more of. I hate the idea of it. When I'm going in, I feel so nervous. Even when they're like 5-year-olds, I'm like, oh God, I get really nervous. But then when I leave, I just feel I get like a bit of a buzz. I'm like, this is insane. But it's different things. But I think it's talking to people about how there isn't this one route of the world where you go to education, you go into further education, and then you have to go and get a job in, the things where what do you want to be when you grow, what do you want to do when you grow up? There's a list of like 20 things and you have to pick from one of the 20. I think I'm going in and almost saying there's thousands of things, don't just look at the 20, like there's so many opportunities for you. So I go in and explain to the really little children what I do. So it's like I bake cookies, but then I also have to be good at art because I have to do the marketing side. So you can't just, whatever job you want to do, there's so many parts of that. So being at school is great because you're learning lots of different subjects, and believe it or not, they will all come together at some point in whatever job you choose. But then also saying that if you are not overly academic, because I was okay at school, but I am dyslexic. So for me, I did really well, just considering. But at the same time, I'm definitely a creative person. So going into schools and explaining to somebody like I'm a creative person, and I now own a cookie shop. That's such a strange thing to own. So it's going in and talking to people and giving them the ideas that you are at the beginning of your journey now. So like, have a little bit more imagination and have a little bit more, giving people a bit more scope, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you inspire lots of the children that you speak to. So just finally then, Toni, if people want to buy cookies from you, where can they find you?
Okay, so we have a website which is thecookypeople.co.uk, and you can go on there and we post all over the UK. If it's any corporate orders, because we do corporate events as well, you can just email us at hello@thecookypeople.co.uk. And then just follow us on social media. So you've got Instagram, which is the Cookie People Co. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, and the best of luck with your business for the next few years.
Thank you so much. It's been such a lovely morning. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.